Today we're going to talk about overall approaches to offense or defense on the board. Specifically, we're going to talk about turtling and about board control. For those not familiar, turtling in a strategy game typically refers to the act of bunching up all of your forces in a corner and forcing your opponents to come to you. This can be a very powerful strategy in True Messiah because it will allow you to safely build a lot of temples very quickly. There we can see Violet has adopted a starting configuration that is very amenable to turtling. On Violet's first turn, Violet will build a temple right next to their holy city, get 2 new followers, and will be able to start constructing 2 new temples with their 6 moves. Because these temple building sites are in the corner of the board, these are very safe spaces in which to build temples. In order to counter this, Red is going to have to move out across the board and probably rely on Fruit of Knowledge. In addition to allowing a player to expand quickly and safely at the very start of the game, turtling has one other big advantage. It blocks access to the Holy City. So those are the advantages of turtling. Turtling has some distinctive disadvantages, however. Ironically, a turtling player actually makes themselves vulnerable to aggression from their opponent. The proper response to a turtling player is not necessarily to turtle, but rather to expand aggressively and capture territory on the board. Here, for instance, seeing that Violet has adopted a very defensive starting configuration, Red might choose to respond aggressively. This starting configuration gives Red just as many opportunities to build new temples as Violet had, but with the distinctive advantage that Red will now control much more of the board. Red can now do much the same as Violet did, but put her in a position to actually threaten Violet going forward. Red can move. And with the 2 remaining followers, Red can play Evangelize. Place a new follower on a temple, and then move it. The big problem with turtling is that these spaces, which are safe to build a temple at first, will very quickly become unsafe to prey in if your opponent is allowed to encroach on your territory. Already in this scenario, we see that Red has not 1, not 2, but 3 holy spaces in which it's completely safe to prey. Violet also has 3 spaces in which it's safe to prey. But watch what happens on Red's turn. Suddenly Violet only has 1 single space in which it is completely safe for Violet's units to prey. That being, of course, its holy city. On either of these 2 front spaces, even if those spaces have a full 4 followers apiece, if any of those units prey, Red can easily muster a force of 4 low units to throw at that temple and capture it on Red's next turn. This is, in a word, bad. The difficulty of safely preying on all of your spaces when you're turtling becomes an even more acute issue as the game goes on, and as the players resort to using more and more powerful and more expensive miracles. In short, while turtling can give you a short-term advantage when you're trying to macro, and while it can be helpful in order to protect your holy city, in the end, if you give up board control, you're giving up a lot of tactical flexibility, and ultimately you may be hamstringing yourself in the late game. A configuration like this is easily punished, particularly if Red happens to gain access to the right miracles out of the market. For example, Fear of God. Fear of God costs 5. Red could pay for this miracle right now using entirely just followers on holy spaces that aren't even shown on the screen. And using Fear of God could make all 4 of the followers on this space pray. All Red has to do then is move in like that. That's 4 dead followers, 1 dead temple, and Violet is in a lot of trouble. Perhaps the most terrifying threat faced by a configuration like this, where all of your units are bunched up in one area, is the Miracle Plague. If Red happens to gain access to this miracle, Red can punish Violet over and over, outright killing one low unit on every single space in that cluster. Not only will this hamstring Violet's ability to recruit new followers, it also frees up Red for an easy temple taking. Or, alternatively, with a Providence thrown in on the group to the right. That's 2 dead temples at virtually no cost to Red. Well, there you have it, folks. This is my little primer on the uses and pitfalls of turtling in True Messiah. In the next video, we're going to talk about how to use some of the miracles that you can get out of the market to best effect. Thanks for watching.